Look, the country bumpkin from a poor farm family has arrived. When you think of a wedding, you picture the bride and groom enveloped in happiness, surrounded by family, friends, and loved ones, spending precious moments together. Who would have thought that such harsh words mocking Dad and Mom would be heard at such a wonderful event? They were just guests at their daughter's wedding. Why did they have to endure such cruel words? Right after, usually quiet, Dad said just one thing. "Shall we go home?" Yes, that one sentence set everything in motion. Emma and Richard would come to regret the words that came out of their mouths. I've always said that one should take responsibility for their words, and it couldn't be more true for these two. No matter how elite they claim to be, forgetting what truly matters is a dead end. Those who don't understand the importance of gratitude must learn there are consequences. I'm Evelyn, just turned 28 this spring. I live in what you would call a regional city. I think I have a convenient life. Most things are accessible by car, and most of my friends live nearby. I've never found local life inconvenient. I'm not one for flashy lifestyles, so it suits me. I even commuted to a nearby university because it offered the field I wanted to study. After graduating, I got a job at the local government office and still live at home. Weekdays are for work, and weekends are for shopping with friends or Mom. It's not flashy, but I find these days fulfilling. I have an older sister, Emma, but we're complete opposites and haven't gotten along since we were kids. Emma has always been into fashion. She longed for the trendy life of Boston, a city where everything is available. She filled her life with her own style and fashion, always enjoying putting together her whole outfit. I remember thinking how amazing she was as a kid, always in the middle of the fashionable crowd, while I had no interest in fashion and preferred reading and studying. Emma was all about style and hardly focused on her studies. Sisters can be so different. I never thought much of our differences, but Emma did. She seemed embarrassed to be related to me, often making snide remarks. I can't forget an incident from high school. One day, I brought Emma her forgotten sandwich to the classroom. As I called her name, she was at the center of a loud group in the middle of the classroom. "Big sis, you forgot your sandwich, so I brought it for you." Emma looked at me from across the door with a face I'd never seen before and came over, snatching the sandwich from my hand. In a low voice, she said something unbelievable. "Don't call me big sis in public. It's embarrassing to be known as your sister." I was just delivering a forgotten sandwich, and she spoke to me like that. Suddenly, Emma raised her voice, waving the sandwich around before returning to her group of friends. "I guess I left my sandwich at the bike rack. Some underclassman found it and brought it to me," she laughed. She deliberately let go of the sandwich box, making a loud noise as it hit the ground. My parents say I don't need to bring lunch, but they still make these plain sandwiches. I hate it. Let's go to the cafeteria. I can't eat this. She walked off to the cafeteria with her friends. That was the sandwich Mom woke up early to make for the both of us. I could only stare at the sandwich, now pitifully discarded on the classroom floor. Ever since that incident, I've kept my distance from Emma. We don't fight, but we don't talk much either. I think it's unreasonable and unbelievable to treat a sandwich made with care so carelessly, to waste it. But Emma doesn't seem to think so. If we can't understand each other, keeping a distance is probably best. Emma often talked about going to Boston, and after high school she went to a university there. But it wasn't about pursuing something specific at a Boston university. I can't bear to spend my college years in such a countryside. I want to enjoy fashion and social clubs as a college student. It seemed she just wanted an excuse to leave this area and our home. She chose her college because the department name sounded cool and quickly left home. After 4 years of student life and becoming a working adult, people's true nature doesn't change. In fact, it feels like it's getting worse. After graduating and losing touch with her friends, she had no one to listen to her work complaints and frequently contacted me as if begging me to listen. Her stories were unbelievably irritating. "Listen to this. My colleague has no eye for people. It's so annoying. Why are you calling me in the middle of the night? It's awful. They didn't use the report I spent a whole day on." I had to calm down Emma, who called late at night, repeatedly saying, "It was unbelievable they didn't use it." "Did something happen?" They said the format wasn't right, but that's such a minor thing. If the format is wrong, can't you just redo it according to the instructions? I don't really get it. Isn't it terrible they didn't use it even though I worked so hard? I understand that the end result matters no matter how many days it takes, but Emma doesn't seem to get that. To her, it's all about her hard work not being appreciated, like she's the victim. I can't deal with her always playing the victim and constantly complaining. Just when I was fed up with her complaints, Emma dropped a bombshell. By the way, I'm quitting my job next month to get married. I'm bringing my fiancé home soon. I was shocked in many ways, letting out a strange noise. Her sudden resignation was surprising, but her getting married was even more so. I knew about Emma's past boyfriends, all sorts of types. Lately, she'd been saying she'd definitely marry a rich man, but I couldn't imagine who her fiancé might be. Quitting your job and getting married? I'm working hard, but they nitpick over mistakes and formats. I can't take it anymore. Want to know about my fiancé? What's he like? You always said you wanted to marry a rich, handsome guy. He's actually a banker at a major bank, 5 years older. He's good at his job in sales, so he has to travel a lot. I didn't know what to say and was speechless on the phone. Oh, that's good for you. Talking to Dad and Mom is a hassle, so just let them know for me. We'll set a date to meet. Emma's habit of dumping everything on me because it's troublesome is an old bad habit. I've given up on her changing at this stage in life. I relayed Emma's message to Dad and Mom and that her fiancé wanted to set a date to meet. How about 3 p.m. next Sunday? That works. I'll let him know. On the promised Sunday afternoon, they arrived. Emma and her fiancé Richard, a tall man with a refreshing smile, slender build, and smart demeanor, looked like a character out of a drama. I found myself staring at him, meeting him for the first time. Sorry for the delay. Just got held up at a client meeting. Richard is always busy with work, remember? But that's fine. Come on in. I'll have Evelyn prepare some coffee and snacks. I actually just had coffee with a client. I try to limit myself to 1 cup a day to avoid too much caffeine. I felt a hint of arrogance from Richard as he looked around, sniffing dismissively. Oh, is that so? I'll make some decaf then. You're the sister, right? I heard you work? Yes, I'm Evelyn, her sister. I work in an office at a local specialty sweets company. Oh, that place. Everyone knows too much caffeine affects your performance during the day. As the conversation continued, something about this man started to bother me. Everything he said seemed to irk me, as if he was either full of himself or looking down on others. There was a noticeable discomfort in talking to him. Above all, his lack of gratitude or apology was evident right away. Here's your coffee and snacks. It's decaf. Okay. Oh, this cake is from that department store's exclusive range, right? The cream lacks depth. It's not very good. You think so too? Richard knows his stuff about flavors. Well, I do get treated a lot by clients, so I've naturally come to recognize good taste. A cake deserves better than mediocre cream. There they were, Richard talking about his taste preferences and Emma nodding along. No apology for being late. Just excuses. Complaining about the cake and coffee I served, I honestly thought this guy was quite rude. Would anyone really be so blatant about their dislikes in front of others? But it was clear he was even more disrespectful than I had imagined. This became evident when my parents met Richard. Dad's clothes were slightly dirty from working in the fields. Thank you for coming all this way. Nice to meet you. I'm Emma's dad. Oh, hello. Richard immediately frowned upon seeing Dad. Then, as if sensing it, Emma turned to Dad. Wait, you're dressed like that for a marriage proposal meeting? Well, it's probably the best he can do. We're in the countryside, after all. Not much variety in clothes here. That's true. Sophisticated fashion is hardly a thing here. I was honestly infuriated by their conversation and wanted to retort right away. But Dad and Mom either didn't notice or ignored their rudeness, continuing the conversation with smiles. So, Richard, you're planning to marry Emma? Yes, I'm here to announce that I intend to marry Emma. That's wonderful. Emma, you found yourself such a fine young man. Well, yeah. Someone like Richard is the only match for me, you know, Emma answered, flaring her nostrils. I held back my urge to comment, listening as part of the family. So, where will you live after the wedding? We're not sure yet. Richard is so good at his job. He's popular at various branches. There's talk of a promotion coming up. I'm being rewarded for my performance in loan operations. I thought Emma could attend the ceremony as my wife. That's impressive. Quite the achiever, aren't you? Dad laughed heartily, sipping his coffee, and Mom couldn't hide her joy. Honestly, I didn't know what to think, drinking my coffee, which tasted bland. The conversation soon turned to their wedding plans. Are you two planning a wedding ceremony? Of course, we've been talking about having it at a famous hotel. I happen to know the manager there, so I thought I'd arrange it. I'm really looking forward to it. Then Emma and Richard exchanged displeased looks. You're coming to the wedding? Weddings are a time to invite those who have helped you along the way, to express gratitude and declare your future intentions. So when I heard that Emma wasn't inviting Dad and Mom, our family, I was momentarily stunned. Dad pretended not to hear and continued the conversation. It's a busy time for the farm, but maybe we can make it if we hire part-time help. Yes, it's our peak season, so let's arrange for part-timers early. If we get the part-timers sorted now, we should be able to make it. It's been decades since we last went to Boston. Maybe we'll stay for a couple of nights. Dad and Mom talked happily, but Emma stopped them. No, it's okay. You don't have to come. Why not? Well, I heard from Evelyn that you hurt your back doing farm work recently. Emma's gaze shifted nervously. Well, yes, but it's your wedding. Besides, Richard's parents aren't around anymore because of illnesses and accidents. He'd feel uncomfortable. Mom covered her mouth, unable to hide her surprise. I didn't know that. Sorry for not considering Richard's feelings, but I do want to see my daughter's wedding just once. Then, as if she'd been waiting for the moment, Emma quickly started talking. How about watching it live online? You can see the wedding from home that way. I prefer to be there in person, but if Richard feels that way, it's okay. We can watch it from home, right, Dad? Yeah. Then Emma turned to me with an unexpected request. So, Evelyn, we'd like you to handle the live streaming. You've always been good with computers, right? Me? Live stream your wedding? Think of it as helping out your sister who's done so much for you. I wanted to question what exactly she had done for me, but refusing seemed like it would cause more trouble later. It wasn't something I couldn't do, so I reluctantly agreed. Okay, I'll take care of the live streaming arrangements. How many people are we expecting to tune in? About 500 or so. A lot of them are Richard's work colleagues. It's hard to narrow it down. He's well respected. Not just at my current workplace, but many people from different places want to see my wedding. We've even narrowed it down. I got up, glancing sideways at Emma and Richard, who were bragging. I'll discuss the setup with the venue and get things arranged. After that, Emma and I had more contact, talked about the online wedding with 500 guests watching. There was a lot to prepare. There were times when I had to discuss preparations with Emma and Richard, but certain aspects always seemed off. They made remarks that seemed to belittle my parents and me. It feels like my heart gets frayed by their words. It's unimaginable to just work in the fields and end your life in the countryside. It's a job that doesn't require brains, right? Just moving your body, getting dirty from morning till night. It's just pathetic. And I, being the eldest, have to avoid being burdened with taking over. I wouldn't want a family covered in mud either. It's amazing how much Emma and Richard can say without really knowing our parents. I know because I hear it during our meetings, but our parents have no idea Emma and Richard think this way. They always say how wonderful it is that Emma could marry such a nice person. They must truly believe that. I deeply understand my parents' desire to see Emma's wedding. I once boldly asked Emma about attending the wedding. Hey, about the wedding. Even if other relatives attend online, can't we at least have Dad and Mom there in person? They're really looking forward to seeing your big day directly at the wedding venue. Yeah, they always talk about your wedding at home. I know it's tough for Richard, but can't we make just 2 seats for Dad and Mom? Emma laughed and said something unbelievable. No way! Richard's parents and relatives are definitely coming. What? But you said they couldn't be there because of an accident or illness. Oh, you believe that? I had to say that because Dad and Mom were there. I couldn't believe my ears. Does this mean Emma doesn't want our parents to come? But it's a wedding, right? Isn't it a place to express gratitude to your parents? Parents as plain and country as ours don't fit in a fancy hotel. Having them there as my parents would be embarrassing if people knew they were my family. I believed you. So Richard's family not being there was a lie? The lie. Of course it was a lie. Richard's parents and relatives are all coming. I couldn't believe Emma was laughing on the other end of the phone. His parents and relatives? What do you mean? Well, Richard's parents are company presidents. They have a refined air that's so elegant I couldn't bear to have that compared with ours. So you're intentionally not inviting Dad and Mom for that reason? It would be ridiculous to have a president's family next to ordinary farmers. Anyway, I already told them that Richard's parents weren't coming, so let's stick with that. Feeling angry, I hung up the phone while Emma tried to end the conversation casually. Later, I continued contacting Emma about the wedding preparations. One day, Emma and Richard called me. Hello, is something up? Just wanted to tell you, Evelyn, we've decided to have my dad and mom's seats ready at the wedding, so we'll let them know. Really? Dad and Mom will be so happy. Did you arrange this? Well, yeah, we managed to make it possible for Dad and Mom to come. I was pleasantly surprised that Emma could be so thoughtful. Thanks. You and Richard must have gone through a lot of trouble. Dad and Mom will be overjoyed. But is there enough time to prepare? Don't worry about preparations. We've got it handled. Just have Dad and Mom come without any luggage. I thought it unusual for Emma to be so well prepared. Emma always expected others to handle things for her. From Emma, I got the message. I've prepared everything, so just come as you are. Such a statement coming from her was a surprise. Got it. I'll let Dad and Mom know. They really don't need to bring anything. I thought it would be too much to ask them to prepare everything now. They'll understand once they get to the venue. I ended the call and immediately told my parents they could attend the wedding. They were ecstatic. Richard must have had his reasons to be so considerate. We're grateful he understands people's feelings. Emma's lucky to marry such a wonderful man. It's common for parents in both families to rent attire and accessories for weddings, so I didn't find it strange when Emma said to come without luggage. I arrived early at the venue to set up the online streaming. While I was setting up the camera and equipment, it seemed my parents had arrived. I heard laughter as my parents appeared on the computer screen. Look, the country bumpkins from the poor farm family have arrived. Wow, they really came without any luggage. This place isn't meant for country folks. They really don't know their place. It's troubling. In the dressing room, Emma and Richard started to mock my parents. Spreading that country smell all over. Aren't they ashamed? The entire time my parents were getting ready, it was just a barrage of insults. Unbelievable that they'd invite their parents to their wedding only to insult them for coming. I felt sorry for my parents, but I couldn't just celebrate Emma and Richard without doing something. I operated the remote control in my hand. At that moment, their conversation in the dressing room was broadcast throughout the venue over the loudspeakers. I also managed the computer and had the start button for the video. By pressing this, the online wedding was set to stream. Emma and Richard surely hadn't expected it to be pressed before the actual ceremony. The insults and crude laughter about my parents echoed throughout the venue. The dressing room was soundproof, so Emma and Richard had no idea what was happening outside. Their insults continued to play around the venue and its surroundings for a while. Those who arrived early at the venue and those who connected online must have been shocked hearing such unbearable words from a bride in a pure white dress. My parents, having finished getting ready, heard all the insults as they waited near the venue. Suddenly, my usually quiet dad stood up and said one thing. Let's go home. Yes? Dad and Mom left the venue expressionlessly. Following them, the other guests began to leave one after another. Dad and Mom were seen talking to people who seemed to be Richard's parents. Inside the dressing room, Emma and Richard, unaware of the situation outside, looked almost comical. The staff rushed to Emma and Richard in a panic, but it was too late. The venue was almost empty, and the empty seats were noticeable. What's going on here? Why is everyone gone? Isn't that weird? The weird thing is you two. Emma and Richard turned to my voice. Did you do something strange? Emma muttered timidly, and I confronted her. Aren't your actions the cause? Emma looked at me in shock. Do you know how Dad and Mom felt about today? What are you saying? This is my fault? Emma glared at me fiercely. Richard, noticing the commotion, ran towards us. Can't be. Almost everyone left. Richard is respected, right? Is this the respect you mentioned? There were only a few people left in the wedding venue, even from a distance. And it was clear that those who remained seemed uncomfortable. They looked as if they didn't know what to do, and honestly, I felt sorry for them, but it couldn't be helped. Oh, by the way, there's someone Richard should meet. I called over a woman. Who is this? You wouldn't know her, Emma. She's Richard's girlfriend. What? I didn't know about this. Why are you here? Richard looked bewildered, as if he couldn't understand what was happening. Did you know he owns a small office building? Well, yes, the one downtown, right? Dad sometimes goes to his office building to share vegetables from our farm with the people working there. He apparently got to know about it while having casual chats with them, I explained. Emma looked at me as if she couldn't comprehend what I was saying. A woman he often chatted with casually showed her mobile phone, and the lock screen had a man resembling Richard. That's why Dad spoke to her. What do you mean the lock screen has Richard? Emma asked, confused. Dad got curious and asked her. She said the man in the two-shot on her lock screen was her boyfriend. That's ridiculous. Believing such a dramatic lie, you must be really foolish, Emma scoffed. I sighed in frustration. Dad didn't actually think it was Richard at first, but after talking to the woman about Emma and the upcoming wedding, she said, I thought so. That's when Dad decided to verify it with his own eyes. The woman said to be Richard's girlfriend left the venue in tears. What does this mean? He was cheating? I thought he only loved me. No, well, she was just a fling, you know. Emma is the real deal. That's not the point. Don't joke about this. I decided it was time to reveal the biggest surprise. You two seem to be arguing right after getting married, but you know the cameras are still rolling. What do you mean? Emma asked, bewildered. Well, Richard has many acquaintances who wanted to see the wedding, so we connected it online. You can't just stop an online camera midway. Richard began to panic. Does that mean this whole conversation has been seen? Normally, you wouldn't expect a wedding to have such embarrassing moments broadcasted, would you? Richard's expression froze and gradually turned pale. What do we do now? This is bad. What's bad? Emma continued, still clueless. To enlighten the oblivious Emma, I explained further. This online wedding is being watched by Richard's work contacts, including people from his next transfer location, right? No way. Yes, the very same. He was excited to show his glorious moment to those expecting his promotion at his next posting. They wouldn't have expected him to cause such a scandal. Richard collapsed to his knees, his face ashen. What do we do now? This is bad. What's bad? Emma continued, still clueless. This online wedding is being watched by Richard's work contacts, including people from his next transfer location, right? No way. Yes, the very same. He was excited to show his glorious moment to those expecting his promotion at his next posting. They wouldn't have expected him to cause such a scandal. Richard collapsed to his knees, his face ashen. Emma and Richard's aftermath was terrible. Emma, who had planned to become wealthy by marrying an elite banker, was in an uproar, saying, this wasn't how it was supposed to be. The reason was that her belief in Richard being an elite banker and his family owning a prestigious large corporation had completely crumbled. It turned out that Dad owned a small office building with several companies, one of which was run by Richard's father. This was discovered when Dad recognized Richard's parents at the wedding venue by their seating arrangement and faces. Richard's father was desperately apologizing and bowing to my parents as they were about to leave the venue. But Emma and Richard couldn't annul their marriage now as the marriage registration was already submitted. Richard lost his chance for promotion at his new posting and became known as the man who embarrassed himself at his wedding. Imagine being overheard saying things you shouldn't at your wedding and then getting caught cheating. It must have been unbearable to stay, yet Richard, unable to resign, clung to his current job at the bank. Now treated like an outcast, his sales performance plummeted and the story of the wedding spread. Moreover, a video of guests leaving the wedding one by one became famous on the internet as a wedding mishap. Emma and Richard, never expecting to become infamous in such a way, are now sneaking around town in off-season masks and sunglasses. As for me, I continue my days in our local town without glamour or fashion, but still enjoying work, shopping, and reading on weekends. Living a life that suits me and finding contentment in it. And there's a hint of a new spring in my life. I've started getting along well with a man who joined the company mid-year in sales. He may not have a standout education or achievements, but his constant thoughtfulness and sunny kindness are apparent. I'm savoring my own happiness having met a man who brings warmth into my life.